Here we go, everybody. This is the Pardon My Jerk podcast, bringing you a late night podcast. Today, what we're going to be doing is wrapping up day one. Unfortunately, life is still crazy for my partner in crime, Mr. Lethbridge. So today, I am joined by my beautiful wife, who is gracious enough to provide us with her time. What's up, baby?
Hey, how's it going?
She is coming to us today live from the other side of our house. So we want to be able to provide some video footage. Today, Britt and I want to wrap up day one of the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. By and large, they did not disappoint. But I definitely think there are some things that merit speaking about that maybe could have been tweaked or maybe a little bit underwhelming. Tia Claire Toomey. But Britt, what were your first impressions of the games today?
Well, in case any of our listeners didn't know, we are doing a personal fantasy draft. So I was not off to a great start considering my number one overall pick ended up getting COVID. But as upset as I was, I can't imagine how she's feeling to have worked so hard all year long and not be able to compete and show off the hard work that she's put into this year. So I do apologize to you, Bethany Shadburn, and I hope you are feeling better at least. So yeah, overall, having a bunch of those athletes and some that were injured not being able to compete, Tia Claire Toomey is running away with the show. But a really sweet ending to the day with Mel O'Brien taking first place in event 3, though. So that was exciting to kind of have someone push her a little bit more. Event 4, I apologize, last event of the day. So that was kind of great. Other than that, though, I think the venues put together really well. I was really happy to see that it wasn't just a swim paddleboard workout at the beginning. I know we talked about the woulda, coulda, shoulda podcast a while back. We talked about all the swimming events that they do and how they're all kind of the same. So I think throwing the kayak at a lot of these athletes was a really great way to start a great weekend because it did definitely throw some of the athletes for a loop today. You could tell the ones that have experience on a kayak versus the ones who don't, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's very clear. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I want to expand upon that when we get to that first event. We're going to when we talk about the first event, we're going to expand upon it because there's some stuff to unpack there.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, there were definitely some letdowns with some people, but I also saw some no-name people really step it up, which is awesome for the sport and awesome to see. And I think a lot of it has to do with some of the programming that Dave Castro picked for the first day of competition. So that was
that's a good point. Some of the I wouldn't say the programming favored a specific type of athlete. I do feel that the programming was pretty all-encompassing and pretty much rewarded the generalists, and I think you can see that by who's sitting atop of the podium, particularly in the men's side. The women's side, at a glance, you look at it, you're like, oh, this is kind of favoring more the endurance athlete, but I don't think the programming necessarily reflected that. What's that?
You said on the women's side it's favoring the endurance athlete?
It looks, at a glance, it looks like it. Like if you look at the top 5 women right now, you have Toomey, Adams, Holta, Ciaramo, O'Connell, and Brandon. And you look at that, you're going to sit here and think, what did he program? Like a 10K run, a 1 mile swim, and like a triathlon in the first 3 events. But I'm not. I think the program is pretty well rounded. We'll talk more about it. But my first impression is like I thought the programming was largely strong. I'm going to get into some athletes that were impressive, less impressive, all about that. The first things I was kind of noticing were some things with the coverage in the venue. So first and foremost, the coverage stuff. It seems like we even with the new regime and new sponsorship, whatever, we haven't adjusted some of the criticisms that I've had over the years for the coverage. And I want to make sure I'm being nitpicky here, but 95% of what I saw today was fantastic. But I just wish that they would make an adjustment to visually the way they tell the story with the broadcast and the stream. and I can give you example after example, but basically the long and short of it is we had an hour and 20-minute long event for the first event, and we basically saw 4 athletes the entire time.
Yeah.
Like Yanikoski was literally winning by a mile or half a mile. So the only male athlete whose name you heard the entire time was Yanikoski.
And not only that, they were so focused on just showing the distance he had, which, I mean, it was super impressive. I don't want to take that away from him, but I mean, I didn't even know Brandon Luckett was so far ahead of everyone else either until he's literally getting out of the water to cross the finish line. And, you know, and like I said, like with us doing this fantasy thing and you're trying to track all your individual athletes, I mean, I had no idea where anyone was until they were crossing the finish line. I mean, we were looking for Pat Fellner, who even had a long sleeve shirt on to try.
Well, that's because he was in last place. But,
I know, I know, but I'm saying like there was no coverage of anyone else, and that was kind of throughout the whole day. It was whoever was in the lead, or if they're kind of a favorite for the crowd, that's literally who the media was following.
Yeah, it was frustrating. You know, on the swim paddle, all we saw was Koski, and then all we saw was Toomey, Barnhart, and O'Connell. Or, you know, we saw Barnhart until she faded, and then it was the 3 podium women, like the top 3 women in the heat. And so we really saw 4 athletes for an hour and 20-minute long event. So it's like we either need to see you guys sort of try to tell a better story with other athletes competing. And I'm using that as an example, but it was really ubiquitous across all the events. Really, I mean, we were just whoever jumped out to the early lead, we're going to point the camera at them until something changed, right? And like we had to see someone come back and surge ahead before that camera was going off of Danielle Brandon in the sled pig muscle up workout.
Well, not only that, I mean, even in the first event, Luka Dukic, that was in second place, he actually covered a lot of ground in that kayak catching up to Koski. Now Koski could have also just kind of been on neutral at that point, just trying to finish because he was so far ahead, but you couldn't even see that he had closed the gap so much until at the very end, like he was crossing the finish line not that far after Koski. So yeah, I mean, even the guy who was in second place, they barely talked about. And
yeah, it's like I harp on the swim event because I feel like in that swim event, it was such a large event with so many people. I'm sure there were smaller sort of like littler stories that you could tell that were going on that weren't invested in, that weren't just every 5 minutes we check in. Hey, just so you guys know, Yanikoski's kicking the shit out of everybody. All right, now here's a camera shot of Ciaramo and Toomey.
yeah.
Like, I think there was more they could have done with it. And I don't know, maybe they're limited on cameras or whatever it was, but yeah, I don't want to harp on it. I was just kind of hoping we'd maybe see that change a little bit.
But let's give a shout out to the media guy who ran every single heat of event with everyone with a
that dude deserves a raise, promotion, whatever. Because for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, in the 550-yard sprint, the same dude was holding a camera and very impressively running with the athletes on every single heat. And I felt so fucking bad for that guy. He did over there 9 total heats, and he's running all of them with these athletes. And I thought it was like, we're just going to get like a 50-yard sort of no, he's going the whole way with these guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the camera. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. So I mean, we
just dripping, and his shirt was soaked. That dude had a long day.
Yeah.
Going with that, so the news broke, I believe yesterday, that CrossFit is now accepting bids for a new venue for life after Madison. I think for the 2023 CrossFit Games. So with that sort of like warmed into my head, I would turn the games on this morning, and I watched the swim kayak. Now we're on to the sled pig muscle up workout that's performed. I don't know the name of the venue off the top of my head, but it's the grid soccer field with the big Zeus rig on it. And the thought crosses my head as I'm watching this. I think CrossFit's time in Madison has run its course. And I would really like to see CrossFit leave Madison. So Madison seems like it has some really cool stuff. The really nice thing about Madison is it seems like when the CrossFit Games are in Madison, Madison is about the CrossFit games. Like there's signage everywhere. There's advertising everywhere. Like the town seems devoted to it.
Which is great for the sport, though.
Yeah, that's cool. My issue is I'm looking at that field and I'm like, this looks like I've seen high school football stadiums sell more fans. Like we have these like small sort of these small bleacher type things. They're not super full. Like the fans don't, I feel like the fans aren't really on top of the athletes they would be in other stadium setups. It's just too airy and spaced out. And for a spectator event, I wanted to feel like Notre Dame Stadium, where like the fans are on top of the athletes, and like we can really
Sitting on
feel
those
that
super old wooden benches of a stadium seating.
That would be fantastic, actually. Better than like, is that somehow worse than like the typical like high school metal bleachers they have them sitting on right now? You know what I mean? And it's
No,
like,
I mean it's definitely, you know, the whole classic look for sure. It's just that if you've never been to that stadium, it definitely is a different look compared to other places. But
no,
it's
just
cool.
The Coliseum seems great. Coliseum seems really nice. I do like that a lot. But as far as what they offer in terms of the outdoor venue, I just don't think Madison has been super strong. Now the flip side of that was in Carson, right? We put them in that soccer stadium that was never even close to full.
Yeah.
But it felt like something bigger, I feel like, than it actually was. Even with that stadium not even remotely full, was the StubHub Center, not even remotely full, or the soccer stadium there. It's not the StubHub Center. But it was like sort of like a bigger, more grandiose sort of event. And I just like that better for some reason.
Do you have any suggestions for future venues then?
Well, the one we mentioned on the podcast previously is I called this one, is that they're going to move it to Boston.
Shorter drive for you and I.
Yeah, I think they're going to move it to Boston, just because there's so many CrossFit companies that are based out of that area. I feel like Boston has like the infrastructure to support it. I don't know what they would do with the water thing, because I feel like any water in the surrounding Boston area is not someplace you want to be swimming. But and that's kind of the next point, is like every year, like since the games went to Madison, we were like, hey, just so you know, you should never swim in that lake ever, or you'll get parasites and like a stomach virus. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We're gonna do that every year though. We don't care. Like Sam Stewart was just saying, he's like, yeah, that water smells like shit. And Dave Castro's like, I heard Dave Castro, he goes, the water doesn't smell like shit. The bird shit around it smells like shit. It's like, oh, okay. I was looking at that water today and I'm like, that is like baby excrement green. Like it's awful.
It'd be like swimming in the Susquehanna River.
I'm not sure most of our fans understand the reference, but I would venture to say worse.
You can move it to Pittsburgh. They got the waterfront there. It's a big city, ton of stadiums.
That'd be great. I think Pittsburgh actually would be a pretty good. You got the mountains out there. You've got access to plenty of water. There's tons of lakes out that way. There's rivers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they could turn the hockey rink. You want the fans close, man. You can turn the hockey rink into an indoor venue. They'll be right up on the glass.
So first event today, we have let's talk about the first event. So we kind of dissected the coverage of it, but the Swim Kayak, what did you think of it?
I mean, obviously I liked it because it was different over the years, watching the same swim paddle, swim run as the first event. It's just, you always know it's coming. So I liked that Dave Castro last minute was like, especially because you knew all these people were practicing the paddleboard. So the fact that he threw a curveball at him and was like, nope, your guys are going to be kayaking, I thought was really cool. And I thought for how long the event was, it was so watchable in a sense, which I enjoyed because it was like an hour-long event. But overall, I thought it was neat, and you could definitely tell the athletes who have experience with the kayak and who didn't, and it paid off for them in the end because it wasn't about the swim. It was definitely about kayaking.
Yeah, I like that 1 mile distance. I thought that was a great test. giving them the flippers, the fins, excuse flipper. I think they're called fins. Giving them the fins. Definitely, I like how it kept the pace a little bit stronger in the mile. Definitely appeared, as a few people said, if you're a strong swimmer with a strong swimming background, it's going to separate you. People with experience of the fins, and that really appeared to be the case, especially with Janikowski, who obliterated everybody.
Everyone,
and like you saw all the people in the front, Barnhart, Ciaramo, Emmental,
Timmy,
Janikowski, like they all are experienced high level swimmers, and the gap was just massive. But the only thing I was like, I'm not sure the swim even really mattered that much, because I just assumed going into this the kayak would be much faster than the swim. But after watching, I was like, kayaking is slightly faster than swimming for these athletes. So the event was really about that kayak, which was really surprising to me. So it really didn't seem like it mattered that much how you did on the swim. Just don't lose by a half a mile, like outside of what Janikowski did.
Yeah.
It really seemed like the thing that mattered was the kayak, because it was 3 times longer. And if you were not experienced with kayaking at a high speed, you were going to get your ass kicked like Amanda Barnhart did.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, Timmy was behind her by a significant margin and surpassed her quite quickly, along with some other people, because her strokes were just not good on the kayak.
Yeah. I also, small note on that one, I do like how they ended it too, where you had to dismount from the kayak and swim to shore.
And then run.
Yeah, like rather than bottleneck everybody by carrying the kayaks out of the water, the way they did that, I think worked really well. I think it was good. I wouldn't mind seeing another endurance event though, because I don't know how effective, like if that was a super comprehensive endurance test, excuse me, because you got to sit on a kayak for the overwhelming majority of that workout.
I get that, but I mean, you've gone kayaking before, and but you've never done any competition. You don't know the fatigue it's still causing you in your shoulder.
But I hear you, but that's not the same thing to me as like a long run or something like that. If I get tired of that kayak, I can back off and glide a little bit, and like, I don't know. I feel like they weren't as out of breath as they would have been on a 10K run.
I mean, you could do that on a run though too. Just slow up.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, as far as like a change, I give it like a C plus B minus type of range. I like that the kayak was cool. I liked it. I did like the kayak. It was just a little too long.
Once again, it's just a swimming in a lake workout, you know.
Yeah, and hopefully nobody got any stomach viruses. Which
I said I'm partial. I'd love to see them throw them in like an Olympic sized pool and do a swimming event in that way, where they have to like dive off a block.
Oh, I'm 100% with that.
I just think that would be fantastic to watch, you know.
I want to see in a pool mixed modal CrossFit workout again. That's what I love. Yeah. Like
2014.
The idea behind swimming stuff in 2020 was fantastic. I just think the execution was not great.
Yeah.
Like, but I thought it was a really good. I just don't need medicine ball slams in a CrossFit Games workout. Besides that, I thought it was a great workout.
Or riding the salt bike with barefooted.
I think the athletes don't need that. I thought it was great. Number 2, we got the event number 2. We had the sled pull, which was not what I thought it would be. 5 pig flips, 12 ring muscle ups, 12 bar muscle ups, 12 bar muscle ups facing the other direction, 12 ring muscle ups, 5 pig flips, sled pull for like 100 and some feet. Do you like this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the whole mixture of strongman material with gymnastics. I always think that's a good combination together. I think it was more appropriately done than strongman sphere with just throwing the handstand walk in there with the strongman implements. I like kind of, and I'm a huge fan of chippers in a sense too. So I like the diagnostic of that part. But I thought it was silly that they did the 12 bar muscle ups and then turned around and did the other 12 facing the other direction. I thought that was kind of interesting way to go about it. But and it tore people up a lot more than I thought it would. Because I was like, oh, 12 ring muscle ups, that's nothing. But I guess coming off of the back end of doing 24 bar muscle ups to try to do 12 more ring muscle ups would catch up with you. And the other part I really liked was that, and someone mentioned at the gym tonight too, was how it wasn't a pig flip for distance. It was a number of pig.
I did like that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I mean, obviously some people have an advantage with the pig based on your height and weight too. So I think just having to do a set number for each athlete kind of gave everyone a fair chance in that sense.
Yeah, I just don't like it coming down to like something weird happened. So this dude flipped the pig and it was 6 inches in front of the line.
Yeah.
Whereas this other dude just happened when his pig came down, it scooted a little bit more. So he gets to save an entire flip.
But I mean, that kind of happened with the sled pull at the end though, because some people weren't like pulling it the whole way through. And
yeah, that was, we need to,
like, as I'm watching it as a spectator, I was still kind of confused, like where the finish line was, like what they actually had to cross with.
I think the finish line was your feet had to touch the, like cross in front of the white stripe. But the dumb thing with the way it felt like it was executed was it felt like all you need to do is have your body in contact with the strap. And then once your feet touched that white, you were good. Yeah. So like, you know, you had people like Jason Hopper and Catherine David's daughter, and shocker, Catherine David's daughter game to workout. That's so out of character for her. She gets right to the end and then just pops her feet forward to tap the line and then drops it when other athletes were finishing through that white line to the time call. And especially in a workout that short, that 1 or 2 second difference it makes, or 3 second difference it makes, that can be huge. That can be a difference of placings, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but you can't put it all on the athletes either. It's based on judging as well.
Oh, I'm not putting it on the athletes entirely because it's the athlete's job to ride that line of what's acceptable, right? Yeah. I'm not saying go cheat, but if you're not trying to skirt the rules in the most effective way possible, you're not doing everything you can do to win.
Yeah.
But
go ahead. What were your takeaways and thoughts on it?
This workout to me was the epitome of a very entertaining workout. I enjoyed I keep saying workout. It's an event or a test. Dave Castro would be pissed right now. This workout was exceptionally entertaining to watch. I like that it went quick. It was sexy. Like there were sexy movements in it. Like there was a story being told as you watched it, because you were watching athletes advance and it wasn't like a super gimmicky kind of way, the way they did it. That being said, I don't necessarily know how effective of a test it was. The muscle ups definitely seemed hard. But the strongman implements, I just don't know if there was a high enough volume of the strongman implements integrated into that workout for them to really matter.
Okay.
Like, I love the pig. I think it's an awesome implement. Let's see 10 pig flips instead of 5.
Okay.
In each round. The sled seems plenty heavy, but let's maybe take, I think, what was it, 118 feet or something like that? Maybe 124. I think it could have been like 150, and I know they're restricted by whatever, you know, but adding a little bit more onto that, I think would have made the test a little bit more effective. But
so you wanted a longer sled pull, is what you're saying?
A little bit longer. That I would have liked to have seen athletes going at a clip, but you're going to have to hurt for it. Like, well, you're going to have to dig deep into that pain cave.
Then it starts rewarding those athletes who are really good at sled pulls. Because like someone like, you know, I'm watching like Laura Horvath or Amanda Barnhart do it, who seem to be very good at it. By the time they actually got going on it, it was over.
Allow them to separate themselves.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not a very long sled pull, it doesn't matter if you're good or bad at it. You're not going to be on it enough to reveal who's good at it and who sucks at it. I agree with that. And like I said, I love sleds and I love pigs. And then as a sort of a separate sort of gripe that I've had for a long time, I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse. Can we just see a strongman event with just strongman? We see barbell events where it's just the barbell. We see gymnastics events where it's just gymnastics. We see monostructural events where they just run, right? can we, if we're going to test strength using strongman stuff just once, please, Dave, honey, baby, sweetie, Dave, just do a strongman event. Like, they're beautiful, elegant pieces of equipment to test strength in like the most in these different ways. Like, let's stop throwing these weird other gimmicks in with our strongman stuff.
I mean, he did that. I forget the games. It's one of your favorite events where they had to carry the log. I mean, I think that one was an all-around strongman, other than the running part of it.
No, that's not.
No.
The log is way too light, and you just said that he mixed in all the other mixed modal stuff with it.
So would you rather just see like 20 pig flips per time?
You're mixing up strongman with odd objects. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like 20 pig flips per time. 100.
Something in that sort of nature. Duncan and I mentioned before, like, we would love to see everybody, like a 300-foot farmer's carry for time.
Oh, gosh. No, wait, or 400 meter. Oh man, that hurts so bad.
Everybody has 150 pounds, farmer's carry handles. You got to take it the length of a football field for time.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did that with the water cooler carry thing
way back in the day. But yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Just watch what they do in strongman events, like an Atlas Stone event. I think would be fantastic. An Atlas Stone event would be so cool. Like a truck deadlift, or a keg toss. It'd be so cool.
Keg toss, that'd be interesting.
Hell yeah, it would be. Event number 3, 550-yard sprint 4 time. This is probably my favorite event of the day.
I was just gonna say, watching it with you today, you were just like in awe of it. I mean, it was so interesting watching it because you're so used to just seeing the 100-meter sprint or 100-yard sprint, and it's done. This is such a different dynamic of running, and being a former track athlete, not that I was a runner in any regard, knowing like what that 400-meter run does to people, and like when you hit that wall when you're running, and how it's just, you got to push through to the end. You could see that in these athletes' faces today, and it was just so cool seeing them push that pain, because it is a hard thing to do.
But then he also tacked on that extra 150, just because no one is running that, no one is used to that.
Yeah. So that was really, really awesome to see. And I mean, I definitely think it was one of those events that separated people who had running experience with people who did not, because in those kind of runs, if you go out too hot, you're going to crash and burn. You definitely got to know how to pace it. So you definitely could see the experience in some athletes over the others. But it was a cool event, and it was quick, and it tested a whole bunch of different types of fitness levels. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought it was so great. I thought it was, first of all, just like the last one, such a watchable event.
Yeah.
Short, digestible heats. You could watch it was going. You could have a horse in that race, and you were cheering for that person. You want to see it, right?
Yeah.
Such an entertaining event that you could show to someone who's never seen CrossFit once in their life. Hey, here's what they're doing. It's a 550-meter sprint for time. Watch. Tell me what you think, and you can do it. There's that. I thought it was such an amazing test. It was right in that sub 2 minute, just like that lactic time frame. It wasn't an aerobic test. It bridged that gap between, we're not doing like a football field cone sprint or hurdle or something like that, but less than a 5K run or whatever type of thing. We're bridging that gap into like a new type of test. And I love, my favorite tests are the ones that are so simple. They're so simple, but they're so awful. When we don't have to like dress it up in all these weird ways. And it's like, and by that, I mean, like, these athletes do track days 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week, right? And they mentioned this on the broadcast. How often are you running a true all out 100% effort 800-meter run or 400-meter run or anything like that?
You never do until you're put in that competition mode and are forced to. The only thing, I I didn't like about this was, and I told you this, was the heat idea. I mean, it's great because you got to do it in heats, especially with a distance like that. But I feel like they could have done something to see the heats better. You know, like you were saying, you were really upset because Danielle Brandon did well. She was running against 3 other people while other heats had 10 other people to push them, you know. I almost wish they would have done something like they did back in 2017 with cyclocross, when they did like heats before the games and then seeded people based on their times. So the fast people went against the fast people. That way you could really see people push one another. Do you know what I'm
That'd
saying?
be interesting, because you're gonna be like a huge Emma Tall fan, or you're rooting for Emma Tall, and you're like, oh my gosh, she won her heat, and you're like, yep, and that winning heat will be 21st overall.
Yeah.
Which
But
is
I
kind of
mean,
interesting.
yeah, because I mean, honestly, like think about it, like you're pushing that limit when you're like having someone push you to that limit. So if you have like someone like Danielle Brandon who blew away her heat, she didn't push herself to that absolute limit. I mean, she looked amazing and she made it like look easy, but I think she still even had a little bit more juice in the tank.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I wish they would have thought about doing it in that regard, and seeing how it went.
But this is probably this one was probably my favorite iteration of like the foot sprint event they've done. They pretty much do. They seem like they do one every year now. I think this is my favorite version of it. Definitely up there. They're always entertaining.
Yeah.
This one, I like that it was so much easier to track, because normally when you watch the games, right, like we have this big zoomed out image where we can see everyone running at once. But you don't, it's hard to tell who's who. You don't know how this person that's closest to you is comparing to this person on the far side of the field. This one, everyone was together and you could watch the story unfold in front of you. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, another thing that would have been cool, and I only say this because I know they've done it before, is to actually put them on a real track and let them run.
Yeah, that would have been cool too. I like that also. I will say though, I did like watching the crowd kind of on top of them though. That was
cool.
I
agree. But it would have been cool doing it on a track and just had the infield of the track where the spectators were.
You know
so
I mean? Event 4. We had 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 wall walks and thrusters.
Shoulders. That's all I can think about.
Yeah.
I don't envy them having to do 1, all those wall walks, and 2, all those thrusters at 135 for women, 185 for men, because those are heavy. Yet these athletes made it look quite light, in my opinion. At least some of them did.
It wasn't even fair how easy they made 185-pound thrusters. Like, it was stupid. This one I would say is like almost the opposite of the sled pig muscle up workout. In that, I think this is probably a pretty effective test. Those athletes were out there hurting.
Yeah,
hurting. Like they like athletes like laying on their stomach face down on the ground. Like, I don't want to do another wall walk.
Especially after everything they've done today. I mean, they did a mile swim and a 3-mile kayak. I mean, the shoulder fatigue these people are feeling, and muscle ups, bar muscle ups. So
yeah, but I just think it was like visually so stupid. Like such a stupid word. Like I have no doubt in my mind it was insanely difficult, and the times in which they completed it, I know I'm undervaluing how difficult of a workout that was and the time domain in which those athletes completed it. But dude, it is first night of the CrossFit Games in the Coliseum, first indoor event, and we're leading things off with wall walks. Dave, let them go, man. Let the wall walks go. Like, we didn't need more wall walks this year.
I guess he felt like it messed so many people up in the open that he wanted to throw it at him again.
Yeah. And what do we see? The 2 athletes that dominated, let's just leave Tia completely out of this, but the 2 athletes that dominated wall walks in the open, dominated wall walks in the games.
Well, I'm pretty sure because everyone was like, after doing that open workout and probably repeating it a couple of times to get a better score, was like, I'm never doing a wall walk again. These are terrible. Until this event.
Yeah, I think this would have been a cool one to have seen handstand walking in some way. I don't know if they would, how they could have formulated it. And another one, like visually, the story being told to you is it's kind of scattershot. You're having a hard time telling who is exactly where. Once again, the camera found Scott Panchik, or it found Emma Carey, it found Mal O'Brien. That's who they were sticking with the entire heat. I think that was great. And it's just the wall walk thing. I don't know. I don't think they belong in the games. It's not a super relatable sort of exercise.
Yeah, I think it was appropriate for the open because this year especially they were trying to really favor people at home, and it was a movement that was easily accessible to do at home, and for a lot of people to be able to at least try. Like my dad at least could do a wall walk, to try to do it RX. But like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. For an event in the games or to test in the games, I think another movement could have been pulled. I think the heavy thrusters was awesome to watch the athletes do. But yeah, I definitely think something else could have been done to make it more watchable. And I'm with you. I had a hard time figuring out where everyone was and what rep they were on. And I didn't like that either.
Yeah. So I've got the leaderboard in front of me. If you need to get your phone out to check the leaderboard as a reminder, that's totally fine. But I do want to talk about who you were impressed by, who you were disappointed by today. Again, this is day one, so this is a very small sample size, and generally things tend to work their way out as you go. But day one are overall standings. We got Fikowski in first, Madero second, Koski third, Bjorkhaven Karl Gudmundsson is in fourth, and Uncle Pat Vellner is in fifth. Women's side, shocker, we have Tia Claire Toomey first, Haley Adams second, Kristen Holza third, Christy Ciaramo O'Connell fourth, and Danielle Brandon in fifth. You don't have to just speak about those, but who was impressive to you today? Who was sort of disappointing to you today? Who had an impact?
I mean, it goes without saying, and I'm just going to get it out of the way because no one else needs to know that. Tia Claire Toomey, I mean, she was amazing. She dominated 3 of the 4 events. Way to go, Tia. I mean, as always, she always impressed us. But other people, Christy Ciaramo, first off, for someone who barely made it back to the games, had to climb her way back in the second chance qualifier or last chance qualifier. To see her sitting in top 5 is pretty awesome. Now, I do think these events kind of were favorited towards her a little bit more today. There wasn't as much strength stuff as normal, but I think she still did really well. There's another one. Pat Vellner making a climb back after his first event, not going so well for him. I thought was really cool. And that Koski too, even after winning his first event by a huge margin, still managing to stay in that third place. He really didn't bomb any workouts today, which was really impressive.
Yeah, respect to Pat Vellner, just like, no, I am not going to get better at swimming. Actually, I'm going to get worse at swimming, and I'm still going to win the fucking games.
Yeah. So, because I'm like looking for him to cross, because like I said, he was wearing that long sleeve shirt, so I knew he'd be easy to pinpoint out. But seeing him get like 38th place, I think it was, or something crazy, and then surging back with a vengeance was awesome.
Yeah, I think as a whole, you can probably slap a big fat gold star impressive sticker on like just the European men as a whole, right? There was so many question marks with European men going into the games. Like this after the online qualifiers were like, I don't know, these guys could be good. I've heard their names before, but we never really seen them compete in a high level competitive setting. And again, this is just day one, but obviously we saw fantastic performance from Janikowski, Bjorn McCarter, Gudmundsson, but we have Andre Houdet in 7th, Lazar Dukic in 8th, and then we have Henrik Hapalainen in 15th place. He's not European to my knowledge, but Guima Harros is also in 9th. So we're really seeing some rookies, not really like kind of no-name guys, really step up and prove like, hey, Europe does actually have some talent coming out of there, you know?
Yeah, and it's great for the sport to see that too. So, yeah, I agree with you. And even with the women, I'm going to say it again, watching the teenagers go at it in event 4 was really cool. And finally, to end the day with someone pushing Tia a little bit rather than her just dominating every single event was really awesome. So
yeah, so you mentioned Tia, and I do want to say,
awesome.
One thing I did want to say with Tia is, yeah, it's pretty clear at this point that she's the next stage in human evolution, but and it was without saying that she was going to win the games this year, but she's actually dominating more than I thought she would.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this earlier, but I just want to say on the podcast, the unfortunate part of that though is this is a year, you know, this women's field is supposedly totally stacked. Everyone keeps saying this women's field is so deep, it's so stacked, unbelievable how much talent is in here. But this is a year where we lost Carrie Pierce to COVID, a woman who has been on the podium and is very capable of winning multiple events at the games.
Yep.
We have lost Bethany Shadburn, another woman who is capable of standing on the podium. To my knowledge, she hasn't been on it yet, but is also capable of winning events in the games. We've seen her do it. We also lost Sarah Sigmundsdottir to injury, a woman who's finished 3rd in the CrossFit Games. We've lost Jamie Simmons, woman who's finished 3rd at the CrossFit Games. And the one woman that we thought might be able to go a few rounds with Tia this year was Cara Saunders. And it looks like, from what I'm observing from Cara, she is not well. No. Something is wrong. So something is she had a COVID sort of hiccup situation going on. I don't know if she's experiencing some of like the side effects from coming off of COVID. I don't know if maybe she drank a little bit too much lake water and she's got some like nematodes crawling around her stomach, but she is not okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, even just like we were talking like, oh, that swim workout. I mean, when they did the swim paddle back in, I forget what year it was. She took 2nd place in that, you know, or won it. And for her to not even be in the top 10 in that swim, I mean, I felt awful for her going into that last event today, and she's sitting in 33rd place, you know, especially because, you know, all that hard work she put in postpartum to get back to where she was. And she had such a great preseason leading up to the games. It's just kind of like something's off.
I think what was telling of her was on that sprint workout, we saw her, I was watching her specifically, and she fired out of the gate. And then it was not very, like, she was explosive out of the gate for like the first 100 meters or so, and it wasn't very long. And then all of a sudden you just started seeing her drift and everyone started pulling away. And then you couldn't really see Cara anymore. And then she was in the very back. And I'm like, that to me is telling that something is not right. That to see her just, I know nobody would have ever predicted Cara Saunders is going to be winning a 550 meter sprint workout, but to just see her fade so quickly was disturbing.
Well, and before we go on to people that definitely didn't live up to the expectations I thought they would, I do want to pinpoint Annie Thorsdottir and her comeback too. She put up some good numbers today and kind of stayed in the middle of the pack, which is really impressive considering her coming back this year. So I thought that was cool to watch too. And maybe that's just me being a new mom, but I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. First of all, we need to make sure that we put some respect on Brent Fikowski's name. I was banging the Brent Fikowski drum.
I know.
For 6 months.
You love that
and
man.
I've been ridiculed for it. And who's in first place after day one?
No one ridiculed you. Relax there.
I was ridiculed for it. I caught so much shit for defending my honor on the name of Brent Fikowski, and I could not be more proud of his performance today.
He did.
Thank you, Brent.
Know, he did wonderful today, honestly. I mean, we knew he would do well in event 1. Event 2, I mean, he's a taller guy, so, and he's strong, so pig flip probably was good for him. But I mean, muscle ups can go either way with him, so that was cool. He held his own there. The sprint he did fairly well, and then, I mean, you even called it going into event 4 that he has a gift at doing wall walks, and he did just fine. So
goddamn right he did. And
I
actually thought he would
let
do
me
better on
put
the
it out
sprint than
there.
he did.
I hate when my husband is right. It is the and it happens all the time.
As far as people with underwhelming it's too early. I honestly don't want to harp too much on underwhelming performances, quote unquote, because we're 4 events in, and
Yeah.
a lot can change.
Yeah.
There's been a few that I was, Tim Paulson. Where the hell are you, buddy?
I mean, in his defense,
What happened?
none of these workouts were really up his alley. But yes.
But then you're not the best, then you're not an awesome CrossFitter.
Yeah, I gotcha.
The whole point is you're not supposed to have an alley.
Yeah, as a vet though, I mean, you would think you'd have a little more put out there, but I don't know. Go ahead and say the other one. I know because you've been dying to.
No, I'm not gonna do it yet. I'm not gonna pull the trigger on him yet. I'm gonna let him, because he still has plenty of time to prove me wrong, But there's a lot of people that that just didn't get off the strong starts, and I don't need to really name names. You can look at the leaderboard and see who I'm talking about. But guys that we evaluated very highly that are just getting off to a slow start this year. Particularly, I will say one, Chandler Smith.
Oh, Chandler Smith.
Somebody put out an APB on Chandler Smith, man. 28th place after 4 events.
Yeah, but he looks good. That's what matters.
Looks damn good.
But Travis Mayer, for me, I mean, I have so much hope for that guy. I've literally picked you for my fantasy team every year we've done it. And I'm just hoping to figure something out on Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll throw Karen, and I know he can do it unbroken.
Maybe they'll get that one. They'll toss that one up for him. All right. Well, that ought to do it for tonight. Thanks for jumping on with me, honey. Everybody, thank you for giving us a listen. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to give this to you daily. Dunk should be back soon for anybody that misses him. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out the team age groups and the adaptive athletes tomorrow. They're going to be playing for you all day. The individual athletes get the day off.